All right, so we've started the recording and we will call the meeting to order at 6:01 PM on June 11th, 2026. And I realize I just did plug in my power cord before we got started. I'm going to do that before items not anticipated 48 hours. We do have two folks online, so we'll do a roll call attendance. Mike Krager. And
Jesse Curl. You're on mute, Ron. Still on mute.
You can't unmute.
You can just click the mic at the top with your mouse if you want.
No, I don't think it's connected.
Oh, there you go. There you go, Ron. Nope.
Nope.
Yep. Nope. Yep.
Try talking. Log out and come back in.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, good. I'm gonna leave it.
There you go.
All right, say your name.
Ron Zamuto. President.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, while we wait for Jeremy, we are going to skip down to review and approve previous meeting minutes from May 12th, 2026. So those were did by Carl. Thank you, Carl. To approve the minutes from May 12th, 2026. All right, any discussion on those? Anything that needs to be updated or changed?
Second.
All those in favor?
Do they have it, yes?
Mike Krager, aye.
Jesse Curl, aye.
Ron Zamuto, aye.
Okay. Those have been approved. Preference. We can do the meeting. All right, so Jeremy, why don't we take advantage of, we'll go to item 5. So we have Tyler, how do you say your last name?
Bot.
Tyler Bott. We have Tyler Bott, who has expressed interest in joining this fine committee. Oh, we've got Jeremy now. Jeremy, do you mind if we interview Tyler real quick, or do you need to do what you need to do and then go? I want to be
No,
conscious.
go ahead. I was late. I was late, so you can go for it.
Okay, all right, why don't we bring Tyler up and you can come sit. Welcome. Tyler, at the vote to the select board, whether to recommend him for being appointed. We do not appoint people to the committee, so this is hopefully the select takes our opinion highly, but it is to them to recommend to appoint you. So you'll have to go interview with them in order to finish the process. So just tell us a bit about yourself and why you're interested in joining the finance committee.
So my wife and I bought a house in Mendon over a year ago, and this is going to be our forever home. So I was like, all right, we've been established, and I kind of got over buying a house and getting ready. I'm like, I really want to work on the local town and try to be involved. Previously, when I was in college, I did an internship at a Parks and Recreation, and so I'd go to the town meetings, go to Parks and Rec meetings. And I got involved that way, so I was learning how the process worked. So it got me intrigued, and eventually, once I settled down, I wanted to kind of do that about my town. And I thought the finance committee would be great because my current job is I run a data intelligence team for a finance company, and I mainly work with AI a lot and creating reports, graphs on big data. And I was just seeing if I could help out and learn from you guys and kind of see. I've been watching YouTube videos and catching up on all the departments, but I just want to learn from you guys about what's the finance committee does and how maybe I can help alleviate, some stress on this side or that side and try to do the best of my ability to assist.
What do you believe the role of the finance committee is in Mendon after watching some of the videos?
I think it's to put Mendon first and make sure that it still has that reserve fund that you, I don't know the exact name of it, but you guys had a good reserve fund of not spending all of it and you're trying to keep it so that the town can carry on and have a good finance system. Now, it's your recommendations that then go to the select board and then they approve them. So you guys are kind of the idea generation. And then they kind of approve or deny, but you guys are like taking in the Excels and taking in the school budgets and all that, trying to figure out what's the best approach for them.
Yeah, I mean, the way I summarize it is we are the eyes and ears of the people, right? From a finance, fiduciary perspective. And, we should be representing the people here of what is best financially, right? So they, by the letter of the bylaw, we provide recommendations on all of the town warrant articles. We don't generate any of them, but we need to provide recommendations to the town on how we believe they should proceed forward. They don't have to take our recommendation. We appreciate when they do. But they look to us for guidance because we're the ones in the weeds with everybody having those back and forth discussions, right? So, we're not here crunching numbers. That we have a great finance team. We have a great town administrator who is very, financial focused, right? So we rely heavily on all of those folks, but it's really up to us to understand what it means for the local taxpayer, for the local resident, sort of maybe assess value and provide a recommendation on what to do. So, how comfortable are you working with budgets the size of Mendon? And like for a lot of people, the idea of a 26? Yeah, 20. The idea of a $26 million budget can be overwhelming for a lot of people, right? What is your experience in that regard?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's certainly big because it's important to the town. The company I work for, it's millions of dollars and I have to produce that information to the CEO. So I'm comfortable with the big data, but I also feel like this is more impactful than that data. But I feel good about it. I mean, I think a lot of the interesting stuff that I saw in the videos was that you guys like over the years remembered where certain things were taking certain budgets, different areas, and they kind of the select board like leaned on you guys to know exactly where certain funds were going, and I found it very interesting that just the setup of everything, and I just want to learn more about how the town's set up, how everything's structured.
Well, I'll take zero credit for that because that is all thanks to our great town administrator being able to pull up the history and all that other stuff, right? So we ask the questions. That's the best part is we get to ask the questions and folks respond with the great gory detail. And luckily we have a great finance department and town administrator who reply in very, very, very great detail. So
Thanks, Mike. Just got to chime in. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been hearing on the meetings and.
yeah, so that's Jeremy Stull. He's the town administrator. He is not a member of the finance committee, but we rely on him in great depth to help us work through all of the details. So, yeah. Go ahead.
So, special. Session. the role of the finance committee, we are representatives for town. Town meeting is like the legislature, all money has to come from town meeting. Staff, the municipal offices can't spend any money until town meeting says. Select board is like president or mayor, they're the executive. We don't report to the select board. We report to town meeting. Part of the select board appoints us, but we are otherwise independent. In fact, the recommendations to town meeting is not just on a byline, it's written into Massachusetts general. The way I view it is we ask town department heads and finance people hard questions so that town meeting goes smoothly. Nobody in town meeting asked about anything other than the school committee budget. All of the requests that the department heads in general made for staff and all of the capital, all of the money things. Nobody asked about, I don't know whether it's leverage because they were focused on the school, but because they trust the finance committee. We thought they were spending money that best interests of the town.
Good to know. I like to believe it's because they trust us.
And we can see that for, we look back and say, when is town meeting going to approve something that's did not recommend this person? If that has happened.
Carl, do you have anything else? So you've been diving into a bunch of other meetings. You know, one of the requirements is to try to understand, you know, what does the fire department do? Right? They do one put out fires, and what is the operations of the fire department, the police department, the parks department, the highway department, right? What is your interest in understanding all of those gory details? Because you got to get into the weeds with them. And, you know, I talked more about street sweepers and, you know, dump trucks and leaf blowers more than I ever thought that I would have. Ice and snow removal. Right?
I think that's the interesting part is, so in my work, I would like to be very detailed and write every procedure out. And I feel like that's kind of coming into this, like with an UI, like write out what does the police department do and what are all the things involved. Like I want to see that, whether it be in an Excel or also like a paragraph to know. That's why I thought the budget that was the school budget and they're going over the Excel, I thought that was fascinating because it just sort of, you're a good fit. Well, I also saw a lot of like the decisions the select board made and how you guys went about different things and how Mendon felt about it. And then I'm like, wow, people really don't actually watch the meetings because they have no idea what's happening. So I want to get more people involved and have people understand like how much that you guys are doing. And yes, it's just been fascinating to kind of, I want to learn about each and every department and understand it. And that's why I want to join the board is I don't have any of this knowledge. So that's what I want to do. And maybe I can bring something that helps.
Okay, great. Jesse, Ron, do you guys have anything you want to ask Tyler?
Nothing on my end, no.
I guess the only question I have is commitments to meetings. As I think Mike mentioned to you already, they tend to happen at the beginning of the year and then sort of tail off around this time of year. Because, you know, it's important, I think, I guess I would just stress that it's important that we always have, you know, as many as possible, a minimum of 4, but I guess, do you have any issues with, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays? Because we really haven't picked days, obviously, moving forward, but just curious.
Yeah, that's a good question because I know that we tried to schedule me to come in on a few different ones. And that was just really bad timing because I am very free. I work from home. And so I have a lot of flexibility. And if I if I can make something, I should totally be able to make it remotely, but probably 90% of the time I should be able to make it here in person on just down the road.
Yeah.
Which is 25 Henry Circle.
Yeah, I mean,
So there's
Okay.
no nights, for example.
sorry, go on.
Yes,
Go
I was
ahead,
gonna
Ron.
say, there's no nights that are off. Yeah, so there's no nights that are off limits, I guess is what I'm asking, like Monday
No,
through
I-
Thursday.
I guess it just depends, like, how in advance do you guys schedule? Is it like a week? You're like, let's meet on this date?
It varies. So the way this typically works, we're getting into the slower part of the season. After the summer, we'll start ramping up for fall town meeting. Fall special town meeting. As we get to that, those will start to be more, more regular meetings. It's typically only once a week. And then once we get through November, we will then be preparing for the season. Jeremy's working with everybody to get all the asks loaded. And then typically in the February-ish timeframe, it starts to ramp back up again. Where we can start meeting, weekly, sometimes even bi-weekly or whatever we need to do in order to fit all of the budget proposals and discussions in ahead of town meeting and with all the lead time you need for warrant printing and all that other stuff. So it's very episodic, but it's very planful. Sometimes things pop up out of the blue, as always. And I'm glad you have a flexible schedule. I have a very inflexible schedule at times. So it is, luckily the committee's been able to accommodate my inflexible schedule. So it helps to just have the most flexibility as possible. Anybody have any other questions? No? Okay. Do you have any questions for us about anything you want to?
I think just as a whole, I watched the videos, but I feel like I just want to be on a fly on the wall if that ends up being the case, so I can just like and ask those questions.
Yep.
Because I just, I'm so high level that I can't ask anything that would be.
But I'm valuable, there are a number of online videos and other documents put out by the state of Massachusetts. Giving all people why learn more than you want to know about schools, how the board of assessors works, how the tax law works, a whole range of videos that you sort of looking for like the special attention interest.
That'd be great.
All right, can I get a motion to recommend to the select board to appoint Tyler Abbott to the finance committee?
So
All right, roll call vote.
Aye.
Although,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you
Ron
guys. I'm
Zamuto,
sorry.
aye.
we were doing a roll call vote, recommend Tyler Abbott to the finance committee. So.
And you already went around. Okay.
Hey,
Jesse Curl, aye.
Ron,
same as
Ron Zamuto, aye. Ron
Okay.
Zamuto, aye.
perfect. All right. We will pass on our recommendation to the select, and they will then get back to you on next steps and where to go from there. So, thank you.
There.
You can hang out, if you want to hang out right there, it's comfier chairs and that, you can even take the comfy chair over here. Welcome to hang around, so.
Carl, if you could just send a note to myself and Kat, and we'll get it on the agenda. And then if you put it in an email, we'll be sure to spell his last name right. So send it over to us and we'll get it on.
follow the policy that we can't do it until after the 5-day period. This will be in July.
Okay,
So you've had an opening since this time last year. So this opening's been posted for 50 weeks.
Okay.
my opinion is that we are within the intent of not bylaws, but we are within the intent of the operating model go through this in the way that the select board sees fit, given that we are, is it a year, over a year that this has been posted? So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to jump back up to item 3. So review request from town administrator for fund transfers for FY26.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go ahead and share my window and kind of walk through this, what I'm looking for tonight. So there's 2 transfers and then 1 other additional motion. So the first transfer is from reserve fund. So there's $52,000 in there after we made a transfer earlier this year. I'm looking for 2 transfers. These only require finance committee approval. The first one is for, let me make this a little bit bigger. The first one is for legal services. So we budget $80,000 a year, and we actually cut that in 27 because we're not doing collective bargaining. We had 4 collective bargaining agreements, and our lawyer was here a lot in person. Those cost a couple $100 a day, and then the back end work on it. So we kind of went through that, and then we had some tricky zoning issues. So this is an estimate. What we know right now, we've reached out to legal and have a preliminary bill, but there still could be stuff that pops up. So this is to cover $15,000 to cover the remainder of legal services in fiscal 26. And like I said, in fiscal 27, we anticipate this being much lower because of the lower labor estimate. Information technology, this has been the one area of the budget that I haven't been able to nail down in the last year and a half. So when I was going through and creating the 26 budget, after being here for most of 25, I didn't adequately price in the fact how much telephone and internet and data plans and cell phone plans and all of that were paid out of here. So between that and some hardware stuff that wasn't budgeted, we just budgeted for the baseline IT. We're going to need about $30,000 to come up with the end of the year stuff. So between these 2, there'll be about $7,000 left in the reserve. I will say we just re-procured IT services for 3 years. And we got, I went through a state contract, but I still went through and got three quotes, sent it to 5 vendors, got 3 quotes, and we are extending our relationship with our current vendor. I just signed a new 3-year contract today after select board approved it last week, pending council review. So we have a locked in price for the next 3 years where the vendor's cost does not go up in years 2 and years 3. Our licensing may, but our vendor cost does not go up. So I'm confident we can get closer in this part of the budget. I know it's been frustrating to me to have to come back to the same budget and ask for big transfers. So these are 2 transfers, 15,000 into legal, 30,000 in IT, and then that leaves 7,000 left in the finance committee reserve.
What were the hardware items?
So it was some simple things like battery replacements and stuff like that. But then we had a couple of laptops that went down. We had, the fire admin moving back to the fire station or to the fire station from police, rather than her desktop that was in. She now needs a new laptop for the fire to be able to leave her workstation for the replacement there. A couple of devices in highway needs to be replaced. So it was small level stuff. And then also this was news to me, the firewall Fortinet that we have for our individual networks is not included in the baseline IT number, which I was surprised to learn and reviewed our contract, and nope, it's not. So we needed to pay a few $1,000s for each of our networks to establish our firewall this year. So just some stuff idiosyncratic about wear and tear and new people, and then some stuff that wasn't adequately scoped by me during the fiscal 26 budget process.
Okay.
How do we procure hardware?
That was too many people at once. I didn't get that.
Go ahead, Jesse.
How do we procure hardware?
Typically through our vendor. And then when it kind of sets off a smell test about, we can do this better elsewhere, we go off and do one off. So we've bought laptops from Best Buy. We bought Ethernet cables from Amazon, things like that, rather than pay, if our vendor comes back just recently, this happened just a couple days ago, we needed a 15-foot Ethernet cable and they're like $20. And well, no. And we went to Amazon and got it for like $7 or something like that. Oftentimes they're pretty good on like laptops and monitors, but the ancillary stuff we end up doing one-off almost on our own.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. I'm wondering how much the vendor marks it up, or if we have to go through. I didn't know, like we go through a certain channel for trucks or whatever. So
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So yeah, we don't have the corollary for IT hardware. So this was something that I had put in the budget for 27, and then we carved it out, didn't add it and labeled it as a nice to have to do a hardware refresh. So we don't have a cyclical uniform approach to say every 5 years we move out every device and we do. No, it's just kind of as stuff breaks, we fix it. So we don't have a dedicated budget for it, which means when we budget it out of what's called 155, the department for IT, it eats into what we've otherwise appropriated for. I will say we're pretty lean in terms of tech. We don't, my laptop certainly needs to be replaced. We're not superfluous with things, but it wasn't included in the baseline budget. I've included more of it in 27, but like I said, we cut the part that I was trying to systematically plan for. Maybe we'll come back in the supplemental at special town meeting and be able to add that back in.
Probably
Charlie, my
isn't
question was, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Just my quick question, I was interested in the split between services and hardware of the 30 grand.
So our run rate a month on services is about 11 grand, and that includes all of our licenses. And we've got about 8 grand left right now. So we've got 22,000 left in, we have 3 months. We have 33,000 left in bills to pay. We have to pay April, May, and June. So that's 33,000. We've got 8,000 left. So, that's a 23,000 we need to come up with. And then I know of 2 laptops that we're going to need. So at like about 1,100 each. So then a small buffer of, what is that, $4,000 or $5,000 for telephone and internet stuff that I didn't, because internet runs a couple hundred a month. Phones are about 1,000 a month. So we're it's largely services from here on out that we need.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just one last IT question that everybody talks about AI, and we're using at my company AI significantly, which is reducing the need for analysts and junior attorneys. We're using Claude and Copilot to sift through our directory and create memos and legal analyses. And I'm wondering if we can or have looked at doing any sort of like grant writing, especially for our departments, to see if there's any. I know that was part of having a assistant town administrator, is the ability to have grant writing. And I'm wondering if we're looking at using AI for any of those tasks.
We haven't, and I'm typically not going to advocate for that sort of stuff. I would never want to put kind of legal work in the hands of an artificial thing. I'd want a person to do that. On the grant writing stuff, we use a tool called Beacon to create some of the front end documents for our procurement, and then run that through legal. Our grants, a lot of them are through portals, things like the One Stop and things like that. And it's going through and it's filling out, state level portals. I'm not sure how AI ties into that, but we are not a prevalent user of any sort of AI tools in town. No.
It can. So hopefully we can move towards that, because I think it'll save you and all of the town folk a lot of time and effort. I don't know. We're not using it to replace lawyers, but we're using it to search through legal documents and pulling out the Pulling out the important pieces basically to
Yeah, I mean,
make
residents-
sure that we analyzing.
Residents send me half-baked AI summaries of stuff all the time to tell us why we're wrong about things, and
I
yeah,
well
they're-
aware. I get that every day. I know.
Yeah.
But that's
Um,
not what we're using it for.
we're
yeah.
not we're not there currently, but yeah, perhaps.
I understand Jesse's point, and if we want to run trials, I'd be happy to review trials before we go off and spend a bunch of money on tokens. Yeah, I would want to see trials be run before we committed to anything, so.
Yeah, if the select board tasked me with that, certainly, but I'm not its inherent champion. No.
Okay,
So those are the two FinCom ones. The next two are line item transfers. So these are from one department to the other. These require both finance committee and select board approval. I think I have 5 of them. Some small ones. So parks to highway. This is replace a mower. So highway grounds and facilities now does grounds, and the money for this sort of thing is in the parks budget. So we're just moving it to highway to make our what's called our Schedule A, our end of year reporting, better reflect what we're doing. This wasn't on the capital plan. It's below the $25,000 threshold, but I've asked highway, police, and fire to put this sort of equipment just on the capital radar because $8,000 is not going to break the bank, but it's also not nothing. Yeah, that should show up on our capital planning going forward. Animal control. I just budgeted for the baseline IMA amount, but there's some consumables, some variables in that IMA, intermunicipal agreement, that weren't accounted for. So we're going to be about $1,000 short, it looks like, based upon what I just got from Uxbridge. So to remind everyone, we do shared services for animal control between like 6 communities. And the animal control officer, Kevin Sullivan, is an employee of the town of Uxbridge. And Uxbridge manages it all, and they just invoice us twice a year. Norfolk Aggie tuition, I wrote here, is an estimate of both enrollment and tuition during the budget creation process. And the anticipated number of kids who were going to go to Norfolk Aggie didn't, or that apply. I budgeted for the top amount and a bunch didn't go, and then the tuition increase was a lot smaller than we anticipated. And also there's a special education assessment, and our proportion of special education students went down. So we have over $150,000 worth of surplus in the Norfolk Aggie line. They invoice us twice a year, and they're done invoicing us. So that surplus is just going to sit there and fall through the free cash, which is why I tap it in 2 places here. Health insurance and Medicare. So Medicare rates go up in the middle of the year. So we put in they go in January 1. So we put in an estimate and we underestimated. And then we saw some more folks go on. So the Medicare line is going to be short. The health insurance line, for reasons I talked about during budget development, is going to also have a surplus. So we're able to move from one insurance line to the other. I didn't tap Aggie because I thought it was useful to just go insurance to insurance here to say our total insurance pool budgeted number was right. It just was in the wrong bucket. Before we move to this current ledger, if we were in our pre-Springbrook ledger, these two were paid out of the same account, and this wouldn't have previously required a transfer, but it's more accurately and more appropriately budgeted the way it is here. So we need a transfer. Next one, $1,940. So our state assessments. So the cherry sheet comes in 2 parts. It comes in revenue and it comes in assessments. And there are 4 parts to the cherry sheet. The governor's budget, H2 this year. Then the House Ways and Means budget, the Senate Ways and Means budget, and then the conference committee adopted budget. We typically budget off of the House Ways and Means figure. And then what we should do is during the tax recap process in the fall is come back and change that level in the budget to reflect the adopted conference committee budget. We missed that step. And because it's a small dollar value, but because this is an isolated department, I can't use a surplus elsewhere to do it. So we need to transfer $1,940 into state assessments to be able to cover all of our state assessments. And really on a budget, so our money comes in on the cherry sheet net of those state assessments. So we book the revenue on one line and then book the expenditure on another line. So this actually doesn't have any sort of cash implication. It's just a budgetary one, just an accounting one. And then this last one is what I added yesterday, I think. So we got a $150,000 community compact grant. for what's called a secondary radio repeater site. So there's a low area, geographically low area near Misco Hill. That makes it difficult to get radio signals there sometimes. So police applied for this grant. We got a repeater site. We have better radio coverage throughout town for public safety. But the project was $17,655.15 more than the grant. Chief Kersey had asked me to put this on special town meeting last fall as a free cash appropriation. And I said, sure, it was on my list. And then neither of us followed up and it didn't get on there. And neither of us thought about it at special town or at annual town meeting either. And then the invoice came in and we both said, oh, shoot. So this is money, again, surplus money in Norfolk Aggie. So really, I should have been using free cash to do this. So as I'm using Norfolk Aggie money for it, this is money that otherwise would fall through to free cash. So it's, as I'm fond of saying, the same pair of pants, different pocket. This is, in 6 months from now, 8 months from now, this would have been considered free cash anyway. Not 8 months from now, 4 or 5 months from now. It's been free cash anyway, so we're using it, kind of accelerating there. Community compact grants, I'll remind everyone, 5 or 6 different components, very easy to apply for state grants. We've used them previously for when we did shared fire chief services with Blackstone, and then some other studies before that. Very easy to apply for, very easy to report on. A great tool from the governor's office to get money into municipalities quickly in a very flexible way. So those are the line item transfers, in addition to the reserve fund transfers. And again, these are all previously budgeted numbers, so it doesn't increase our budget at all. This is not an appropriation request. And then lastly, I'd be asking, as we did the previous 2 years, to have authorized the chair to approve these transfers for the remainder of the fiscal year. So there may be something that comes up, as I like to call it, on June 45th, that we need a transfer for to be able to process. And rather than try to convene a meeting of both this and the select board, to be able to have the chairs authorize transfers for the remainder of the year.
Okay. You had a question, Carl?
Yeah, I had a question about the previous section about the income. So it's getting drawn down to $7,000. When will money be put back into the special town meeting? Free cash is divvied up.
It is really difficult to hear you, Carl.
Yeah, we can't hear you, Carl.
Yes,
Speaker
my
over there, I
brother,
guess.
more money put into the reserve, will it be at special town meeting?
So this is fiscal 26. So we're not, this turns to a pumpkin on June 30th. Are you asking if in fiscal 27 we'd look at FinCom reserve as part of a supplemental appropriation once new growth is certified?
I think the answer to Carl's question is that on July 1st in the new fiscal year, what did we reduced the FinCom reserve budget to what, 50, right? Yeah, so FinCom reserve will go back to 50 with the new.
And why are you asking for a FinCom reserve for the first items instead of taking it out of the Aggie surplus? Is it because they're 2026 bills?
It doesn't really matter. Usually we're not going to have that Aggie surplus, and we won't in 27. Or I don't anticipate it in 27. FinCom reserves are explicitly budgeted for this sort of thing. So I was trying to draw them down first. And then leave a little bit of flexibility there for something that we need last minute, because it only requires a FinCom vote, not a select board vote. So I wanted to leave a little bit of flexibility that, if a week from now, 2 weeks from now, we need $1,000 or $1,200, your chair can sign it rather than me also have to go through the select board song and dance for it. So it is most appropriate because it is a reserve for unbudgeted expenditures, whereas the other stuff was appropriated for something else entirely. But I wanted to allow that flexibility at end of year still.
Good. All right.
I just have another question on the Misco Hill School. I remember talking about that at length. Is that the last piece of all the upgrades needed to make sure that all the police, fire, safety, teachers, everybody has the correct communication, proper communication throughout the school? I remember there was a lot of upgrades needed to get through the brick walls and stone concrete walls.
I'm not sure if it's the last piece. I do know public safety doesn't usually like to talk about their omissions publicly. I think this was if at the very least, the largest piece of the puzzle.
That was okay. Yeah, they cited a few different upgrades needed, and I wasn't sure where this stood within the upgrades that they had requested.
Yeah, this if it doesn't take care of all of it, and I'm not sure, and I'm not sure they would want me to talk about it in detail anyway. But this was the biggest. This was the biggest and
This
most
was the
important piece
biggest
of it.
one. Okay, understood. Thanks. That's all.
Okay, any other questions from committee members?
On the authorization for the chairs, do we just give a blanket authorization or is it up to X thousand dollars typically?
So last year we did up to whatever remained in the finance committee reserve. So the motion, I would be seeking that motion to approve, the up to the 7,000 or up to the balance of the FinCom reserve amount. And then if the board wants to discuss, the committee wants to discuss a cap for line item transfers, I'd be happy to. I didn't present one because I don't know what I don't know. But also, it's if I'm ever going to transfer it, it's from somewhere where it's otherwise not going to be spent. It's not asking for new money; it's just moving money. So, if you think a cap is appropriate, I'd be happy to entertain one.
Remind me operationally, if the committee votes to do that, am I able to do that electronically over email, provide approval? Just because I will be out of the country for a short period of time at the very, very end of the fiscal year. So,
yeah, accounting is pretty understanding about that, considering they're fully remote. Yeah, just an email confirmation of vote or a memo confirmation of vote from your committee to me saying that you approve that, including electronic signatures, and then you can either do an electronic signature or you can send me an email that says like sign in my stead. And what I would do is I would sign your name and then initial it after and attach your email that said, yes, you can sign this $464 transfer or whatever it is.
And if you're completely out of contact, the powers of the chair devolve to the vice chair.
yep, yeah. So, okay. All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to do this in 3 steps. We'll go through, the first one will be the FinCom reserve ones, then we will do the transfers, and then we will do the authorization for the chair to approve transfer at the end of the fiscal year. So, are there any other questions before we go through those motions? All right, can I get a motion to transfer out of FinCom reserves, $15,000 for legal services and $30,000 for IT to get a remaining balance within FinCom reserves of $1,144.13.
So move.
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Carla Hummel, yes.
Billy Haddad, yes.
Mike Prager, yes.
Jesse Curl, aye.
Ron Zamuto, aye.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the transfer of $8,000 from Parks to Highway, $1,000 from Norfolk Aggie surplus to Animal Control, $11,000 from health insurance to Medicare, $1,940 from Norfolk Aggie to state assessments, and $17,605.15 from Norfolk Aggie to police equipment.
So move.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Billy Haddad, aye.
Prager, aye.
Jesse Curl, aye.
Ron Zamuto, aye.
Great. And then can I get a motion to authorize the chair to approve transfers for the remainder of the fiscal year on behalf of the Finance Committee?
Reserve fund, I assume.
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Aye, Carla, yes.
Billy Haddad, aye.
Mike Prager, aye.
Jesse Curl, aye.
Ron Zamuto, aye.
Great. Okay.
First, they're going to do a second one to authorize line items transfers. Is that on the first motion?
We
was
did
the-
the first motion for FinCom reserves. I did the second motion for the transfers, and then the third motion was for the.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, thank you, Mr. Chair. And then, also, you're not all there tonight to sign this, and 3 people is not a quorum of the Finance Committee. So can you take a motion to also allow digital signatures on these transfer forms?
Do you have a question? Carl, did you have a question first?
Well, do you need to, Jeremy, do you want 2 authorizations for chairs to do one for? My understanding is that the first thing we did was to transfer money from the reserve fund, then we did a second vote to transfer line items. Then the third vote was authorizing the chair to spend down the reserve fund. Do you want a 4th motion to authorize the chair to do transfers till the end of the fiscal year?
Yeah, I thought the motion was to approve let the chair approve transfers, which is, the small, the common noun.
No, we specifically said it was for the balance of the reserve, so I guess we do need a second.
Okay, I may have
Yeah.
thrown in the extra verbiage in there. Okay.
Yep,
All
so
right,
yes,
and-
thanks, Carl.
All right, can I get a motion to authorize the chair to approve transfers for the remainder of fiscal year on behalf of the finance committee?
So move.
Roll call vote.
Carl Hummel, yes.
Billy Hannah, yes.
Mike Greger, yes.
Jesse Curley.
Ron Zamuto, aye.
Great. Okay, can I get a motion to approve digital signatures for the current transfers as provided by Jeremy and discussed tonight?
So move.
If it's easier, I could just run down to town hall in the morning. I don't care.
Mike, do you have a printed version of the 3 pieces of paper of 3 transfer forms with you?
I only 2 came out. One got cut off. I will try to print over here, try to get them all before I leave.
Yeah, and then if you get 4 signatures, you're good to go.
Okay.
But is
All right.
the town hall open tomorrow?
No, so you'd have to fob in.
Oh,
But-
in that case, we'll just do digital. I was just trying to make it easier.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I'm working, but I'm not going to be there. Okay, and then I'll figure out a way digitally if I'll probably send a DocuSign to you all.
Okay. All right, so we can all just do digital.
Yeah, and then you don't have to fight with a printer tonight.
All right, perfect.
Okay, then we do need a motion then.
I think it's a little belt and suspenders. There's nothing that prevents you from doing digital signatures. I just wanted to make sure the
Yeah.
board was comfortable with digital.
Yeah. So. All right, well, we all voted for it anyway, so.
All right.
All right, great. I think we are all set with you, Jeremy.
All right, awesome. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Jeremy.
thanks, Jeremy.
We did have another item on here to conduct a budget season and town meeting postmortem, and anything about recommendations for the select board and town administrator for the future. Given that we only have 10 minutes and this is typically a long discussion, I'm going to table this as a topic for future meetings. Just for general awareness, the other topics for future meetings will be reorganization after the select board fills any expiring terms and vacancies, and gathering any input from finance committee on what changes should be made to chapter 4 finance committee of the Mendon general bylaws. Have any good and welfare for the committee?
I'm good.
Any items not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of the meeting? Okay,
I'm just wondering, Mike, if we need to schedule a meeting towards the end of the month.
man. Item 11, schedule future meetings. Perfect rollout. So what is, I will not be available starting June 26th through July 7th.
Hmm.
because of the vote we just took, technically, we don't need to have a meeting between then. Since I've been authorized to do those transfers. So we can wait till July for our next official meeting.
I'm only asking because of our terms.
The way things work is that you carry over your existing position until such time as you are replaced by the select board. So there's no loss of contract.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So unless you are told.
So,
Wait,
Go ahead, Ron.
Jesse, when are our terms up?
yeah, I was just gonna say,
June 30th.
My term's up.
Me, Jesse,
No,
and
but-
Ron are up on June 30th.
right. So what you're saying, Kyle, is that even though our terms officially expire on the 30th of the month, if we meet in July, we're still active members of the FinCom?
Yes, you remain active members until the select board takes action to say that your position has been replaced by somebody else.
And that's especially true because all three of us expressed interest to be reappointed. Sorry, I have something there. Because we all expressed interest to be reappointed, then our terms would continue unless told otherwise, or we decide to step away from the committee.
Okay, thanks, guys. I was just checking.
Otherwise, there'd be a lot of committees over the summer that had very few people on.
Yeah. So I'm going to suggest that we wait until July. The 13th would be, so typically we like to do Mondays. I'd like to try to keep Mondays. So July the 20th, I'd like to throw out there as a possible date because personally that works the best.
What time?
We've been doing 7 o'clock just to give folks time to get here from their real jobs.
So July 20th, I'm actually on vacation, but there would be a remote option, I'm guessing.
Yep.
Might be remote only.
If it doesn't work for people, we can find a new date. That's why I was throwing it out there as an option. If there's other suggestions, open to.
What I'd recommend is we say that tentative, and then 2 weeks prior, we take a poll and see whether that's still a good date for everyone.
Could also do the 23rd. If folks are on vacation that full week, we can also do the week after. I could do the 16th. 16th, I'm sorry. I can first do the 16th, the 20th, the 23rd, trying to avoid Fridays. We could do the 27th or the 30th. I'm going back to what we do Mondays and Thursdays. Right here.
I mean, Mondays are better for me, but
You said Mondays are good for you?
yeah,
Yeah.
better.
So we've been focusing on Mondays.
Monday the 20th.
Okay. You okay with
The
20th?
27th,
20th or 20th?
2020.
Jesse, are you good with the 20th tentatively for now?
Yeah, I'm fine. I think Ron would rather the 27th, but I'm good on the 20th and the 27th.
yeah, I mean, I'll be away, but, you know,
Okay.
I can.
I mean,
probably make
with
it
the
work.
4 of us, so you make 5, so we'll have quorum, even if you're unable to join, and we will make sure we send out the agenda if you'd like to, write up something for us in terms of postmortem, that way you don't have to attend, and that can be another way for you to get your input in, so. All right, let's do July 20th at 7 PM, and I will keep in contact with the committee if we need to make a change. All right. Get a motion to adjourn.
So move. 6.
Wait here a second.
Second.
All right, roll call vote.
Good, how did I?
Mike Baker, aye.
Jesse Curley.
Ron Zamuto, aye.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one. See ya.
Bye.